Okay. More recently, I decided to get a new computer, but of course, since I'm on a budget right now, I wasn't able to get a brand new computer. But not that I would buy a new computer anyway, because I typically buy old, as long as it's a good system that does what I need it to do, and then some. I go by my 80% rule. Do not work something more than 80%. Well, my old computer was using it at 160%, so it was time to retire. But anyway, I went to my buddy's computer store, and I was able to pick up a... I was able to pick up an i7-2200 with 8 gigs of RAM installed for like, I don't know, like $300 or something. And then I took my 16 gigs out of my Phenom and tossed it in here. And now this little computer's kicking ass. Though, there was a catch. Yeah. There was the power supply that was in it. It was a stupid proprietary junker. Everything's 12 volts on it, as you can see here. Follow my mouse. Do you see my mouse? Okay, there we go. So, as you can see, 12-volt mains. So we had, like, basically on the power connector, which I will show you later in the video, which the video is not going to be in the proper order because I decided to change it, so just deal with it, okay? Anyway, so 12-volt mains, 16 amps, 12-volt CPU, 16 amps, and then negative 12-volt 0.15, and then here's the real kick in the teeth. Plus 12-volt system bus, or standby, whatever the SB stands for. Some of you guys might know better, but I know what it does. I don't know what it stands for. That is your standby power that keeps the motherboard energized while it's turned off. That way, when you push your power button, APM can send the power good to your PSU and turn the computer on. That's what really set me back here, was because to run any decent video card in there, I needed to have a proper power supply. So I had a Thermaltake sitting here. No big deal. So I ended up modding the Thermaltake to work with it, and I'll pull up a diagram. I'll throw a little diagram together for you after, but essentially it wasn't that hard. The hardest part was getting a plus 5-volt standby up to a 12-volt standby to run the motherboard off of. Alright, so this here is the actual nameplate on the PSU that I pulled out of the damn thing. 320 watts, it's abysmal. Okay, so now, let me just go back here. Alright, there we go. This little guy was $1.99 on eBay, or Amazon, sorry. Right here was an actual micro USB connector, which I simply desoldered. I pulled the bastard off because you don't need it. I then took this little guy right here, and I did a couple of things. I wanted to verify something. Yes, the negative is common, straight in and out, which is bingo what I needed for this modification. By the way, I did find out about this modification on the internet, so yay, Google! Alright, so I hooked this thing up to my bench power supply and pumped in plus 5 volts right here, and then I adjusted this little screw until I had about 12.4 volts out here. As soon as I did that, I applied some hot snot. So there's hot glue right there, just to keep that little thing from moving ever again. So I did all that, and then I tested it again before I actually installed it in the case. So if you look here, the yellow or purple and black, leads that come off of the PSU that I installed, as you can see, there's the purple going to the motherboard. They're pretty standard color. So you've got your purple and your black from the power supply going into here, 5 volts, and then 12 volts out to the system board, okay? Precautions, I taped the hell out of it. It is mummified. And then I just zip tied it into the assembly right here, as you can see, going back on the video. There's the actual motherboard connector right there. So you'll see there, like yellow, yellow, black, black, and do not ever plug a video card lead into that because you will fry the board. It's a slightly different pinout. Instead of on the top, yellow, yellow, and then yellow, yellow again, and then black, black. It's actually yellow down the one side and then black down the other, and then you've got your purple standby lead, and then the blue one, which I don't remember what it does, but it's taped off and it's not doing jack shit. So that's that. And then down here is the video card that I installed. Everything's rocking. So that's basically all I had to do. I will put the schematic on here, the how-to, in a minute. Again, the video order that I assemble this in is going to be a nightmare, because I didn't really think it through. This is just something I threw together quickly. So there, that's the explanation of that little $1.99 boost converter. It's a 2 amp boost converter. okay, which I got on Amazon, and I subscribed to Prime, which is now only $7 a month, which is bloody awesome. So I got it in like a day. I was extremely happy about that. So yeah, I was able to like mod this computer and get it running. Okay, so I looked everywhere and I could not find the specific page. I pulled this off of the HP forum for how to do this, but just as an example, I did not make this drawing. I don't know who did, but anyway, if you did, leave a comment and I'll put a credit to your creative work here on the videos more section, like little description, because clearly you did an awesome job making this for us, so thank you. It helped me. So anyway, this is a standard ATX right here, okay? Notice all the lovely power buses and little controls and shit like that that are built into it. Anyway, what you've got here is a monstrous nightmare with only 6 pins for the power for the motherboard. And then here's your control leads right here on P2. So for P1, here's what I simply did. And by the way, I trimmed back all the cables that I didn't need on the power supply. I put heat shrink onto the leads and then pinch the end of the heat shrink to seal off the ends so that they don't short against anything. And then, yeah, it's really tidy anyway. You'll see in the video. So, so look here. So first of all, you need power for the motherboard. The CPU connector is already on the PSU, so you just plug it in there, no problem, right? Okay, next step. Here is the actual power connector for the motherboard. Because everything on this motherboard is still standard color code, except for a couple of weird wires on P2, it's not a big deal. Okay, so all I did was yellow to yellow, black to black, brought them over here. So here's your yellows right there. No problem. So there's your yellows, okay? I simply just pulled those off there. The blacks, same thing. I pulled the blacks off the grounds here. And then the blue from here went to blue on the PSU, which is negative 12 volts. Simple enough, right? This is where the step-up converter comes in, the boost converter, okay? The purple wire on P1 goes to the power output on the boost converter. And then your purple from the 5-volt standby on standard ATX power supply goes to the positive on the step-up. And then you pick a negative lead, stick it on the negative. Booyah! You now have, I would say, well, when it says 2 amps, it means that it'll handle a maximum of 2 amp draw on the input side. So I'd say about just under an amp coming off of that little boost converter just to run the motherboard, which is more than enough. That's all you need to do. And then the rest of the video explains the rest. This guy here, P2, you only need 2 wires off of P2 in 99.99% of the cases with this one for the HP. Your green from there literally goes to green on your PS right here. That's your power supply on. And then the gray is power good, okay? That's all. You just connect those two like that. The other 2 leads are literally for the fan. You don't need to do anything here. It says to green wire on chassis, fan connector should be sense or fan speed or tack. This is the lazy approach. I didn't even bother just hooking those 2 black ones up. Realistically, yes, you can short them and it'll work, but I just turned it off in my BIOS so it doesn't even look at the fan. Otherwise, if you start your computer up, it will say, oh, there's a fan problem. Oh my god, I'm going to freak out. And then like it'll just, you know, hit F1 to continue, which is kind of annoying, but whatever, deal with it. You're getting a cheaper computer for like a good price. So there you go. That is how you wire this thing to run off of a standard power supply. And this doesn't just apply to HP. You can usually do it with most computers because for the most part, engineers are lazy. And unless the marketing department or the company itself are real bastards about it, they're not going to force them to do any really, really wonky stuff, because then you've got to have custom PSUs made up, like really, really custom, if they really want to be bastards about it. So typically they just mod down a standard off-the-shelf type power supply and change out your motherboard leads like this, and you're good to go. That's just a minimal modification that they can do in the factory, and then they get like a few thousand of them. So there's that, okay? Alright, on to the video, I guess. Here we go. So this power supply is a standard ATX power supply for a regular computer, which usually has 24-ish pins to power the ATA, or the ATX board. So in this case, I just connected a set of yellows here, which is your 12-volt bus, your blacks, which are your negative, and then your power on right here to the power supply, and then again heat shrinked off all these guys back here, And then this guy right here, you've got your power good and power on. They're the same colors as standard power supplies. So I just connected those back into the power supply and heat shrink them. Now the catch is that you need 12 volts on that motherboard for standby, whereas most power supplies put out 5. So I use this little chip here, which I'll show you a picture of in a moment. And this little chip here, this is a boost converter. It takes 5 volts in and spits out whatever, up to 24 volts. So I've got this taking in the 5 volt standby from the power supply and spitting out 12 volt standby to this purple lead here, which goes to the motherboard, and there you go. The system works. It's not that complicated. If you want a specific schematic on how to do it, I can draw it up, or you can PM me or whatever, and I can tell you how to do it. But yeah, essentially that's it. Let's plug her into the board. As you can see here, turn the power supply on. Look, the LED comes on, and on we go. That's all she wrote, folks.